Hello there, and welcome to Pink Milk, your Star Wars podcast. For us superfans and those normally forced to listen. However, today's not that day because we have got a whole bunch of people lined up, ready to talk about some Star Wars and parenting. Get ready, it's time to drink up! Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Pink Milk. I am your host, Bryan. Normally, my better half and your better host, Thomas, is here with me. However, today is not that day because he's taken a vacay from the podcast. We've been so busy with our three kids. They're all in sports now, and I guess not Jack. Jack isn't in a sport right now, but the other two started flag football and soccer again, so we've got lots of practices and games, and honestly, we're two full-time working people trying to raise our boys, and finding the time is just a struggle. If you've got kids, you know the struggle is real. So he'll be back in probably 2 weeks because this episode is going to be into two parts, just like last week with our friend Chase. Thanks again, Chase, for that really amazing conversation. I appreciate it so much, and thank you to everyone who reached out to both of us, actually, with some really nice words and some great feedback and some positiveness regarding everything we spoke about there together. So that was really great. Also, thank you for the new subscribers on YouTube. If you haven't done that yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really are trying to grow that over there. And if you haven't tuned in for a live stream, try to make it happen. We are on every Friday at 9:30 Eastern Time. It's a whole lot of fun. Even if you can only hang out for like 5-10 minutes and say hello, please do that. It's a really great time, and I'm very fortunate to share a space with not only my great co-host, but everyone in the Steam room as well. A couple other little housekeeping things. We are growing a lot still. I don't know how after 2.5 years of doing this, how we're still growing, but we are. So thank you for all of that. If you haven't done so yet, please leave us a review on both Apple and Spotify. Apple in particular, that's where most of our downloads come from. And if you can, I'd really appreciate a written review. That would be fantastic. I do like to read them from time to time on here. I think I've read all of the ones we've got so far, but it really helps us grow the show because the more reviews and likes that we get, the more interactions our show has, the more likely Apple is to suggest it to other people who listen to Star Wars podcasts or LGBTQ shows or any after show because, that's what we do. And on really good news, I'm very excited to say this. If you listen to our show on Good Pods, it's a really great app that just kind of cultivates a bunch of different podcasts. They do a lot of stuff for indie podcasters, which is always nice to have that kind of support because, most of us are sitting here in our bedrooms or home offices cranking this stuff out and going to YouTube every other day to learn how to do something new when something goes wrong. We don't have producers and all that stuff to try to make our show sound as great as we all try to get them to do. But so Good Pods is a really great spot for that. And we're doing pretty well on their charts, I gotta say. I'm very excited. We are number 5 in all of the top 100 indie after shows charts. Amazing. Number 8 in the top 100 after shows chart. And number 67 in the top 100 of all TV and film charts. I mean, come on now. That's rad. So again, thank you for listening. And I can't say it enough. Your support means everything. We appreciate it, especially because we do a lot of talks like this that are not your typical Star Wars podcast. But unlike those other podcasts, which are also great, we get it to dive into deeper stuff like parenting and how it's influenced and how Star Wars has influenced us there. So let's drink up and listen to that. Drink up. Hello there, everyone. I am so excited to be sitting here with this amazing group of people to talk about something that we don't always get to talk a lot about on Star Wars podcasts, even though so much of Star Wars is centered around this topic. And that topic is parenting. We're going to talk about being parents who love Star Wars and how Star Wars has influenced us as parents. We're going to talk a little bit about social media and how that's influenced us as parents or will influence us. All of those kinds of things that are centered around Star Wars discourse. Also, maybe a little bit of a hot shade thrown here, but let's also have some justice for Uncle Owen because I've never lied. I think Uncle Owen is a terrible parent, so maybe we'll get some justice for him, and Obi-Wan Kenobi will maybe shed a more positive light on that person. What do you think? Anyways, let's get into this and start meeting the parents that we're going to be hanging out with. First up, you know her, you love her. She's our shipper queen. All ships are valid. All of them. Here we go. Who are ya?
I love Bryan. You're amazing. Okay, so my name is Em, and I Brian's Grief co-host Pink Milk After Dark. At Friday, we live stream and we talk about Star Wars queerly. I'm a mom of a nerd 6-year-old. We live in Montreal, Canada. That's who I am.
I am Nick. I'm the host of Podcast of the Wills. I'm the podcast that treats Star Wars like a sacred text. We dig into the movies. We do what we call canon studies. We break them up 20 minutes or so at a time, and we treat it like a Bible study, but instead of the Bible, we use Star Wars, and we talk about inspiration, literal interpretation, practical application, all the different ways that we can dig into Star Wars and get even more out of that fruit that we keep squeezing over and over again, looking for other things to talk about. I am also a father. I'm a father of 4 daughters. I have twins that will be 14 in May. I have one that will be 10 in July, and I have a 5-year-old turning 6 in like 3 days. So between my wife, my 4 daughters, and my dog, who is also a female, I am hopelessly outnumbered, but I would not trade it for the world.
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Thank you. My name's Jason. I'm a co-host on Blast Points podcast. I am the father of a soon-to-be 13-year-old girl. Her birthday is St. Patrick's Day. So next week, and yeah, it's Star Wars and being a parent just go hand in hand, and just it's the gift that keeps on giving. You know, the movies keep resonating more and more, especially being a parent, and I can't wait to talk to everybody about this.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kerwin Yard. My son Keith and I host Father and Son, a Star Wars podcast. We started the podcast almost a year ago. We're coming up to our 1-year anniversary. It's just something my son and I love to share and love to talk about. And it started with The Mandalorian in 2019, and we've just been talking about it ever since. And my beautiful wife, Tanya, came up with the idea of creating a podcast because, you know, they thought maybe people would be interested in hearing what we have to say. So here we are, 1 year later. So I am a father of 2 boys. Keith is my oldest. He's 10, and Maceo is 9 years old. So I'm just thankful that you invited me here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
No, thank you for your podcast that I can sit and watch with my youngest son, who also loves Star Wars, because there's another kid there on his level that understands it and loves it. So thank you.
Hey, everyone. I am just surrounded by incredible parents and podcasters. It's just awesome. So, wow. So if you don't know, I am Becca Benjamin. I am co-host with Talk and Stop Shelf with Mark Suter and Kanata's Castle with Red 5 Mom, who's always standing by. Also, I'm just partake in a plethora of Star Wars. I love to work with Lucasfilm artist Steve Anderson and collaborate and come up with titles for his limited edition Star Wars art. I'm a mother of 3 young adult I can't even call them children anymore. They're my children. But yeah, I've went through that stage. I'm in the other stage of parenting, and also at this time in my life taking care of my elderly father. So I am in the mix of being still the dutiful daughter, reference to Turning Red, and also, the ongoing motherhood, as always, because, you never stop being a mom, because the child will still come over, whether or not that they live with you, and be like, I need something. And you just miraculously are supposed to have it. So anyway, I'm happy to be here because, yes, Star Wars does walk us through this journey of parenthood and life and family and found family. So, and here we are. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I am so glad you brought up Turning Red because we just watched it this weekend, and there's a part at the beginning that the mother says something about respecting your parents because we made you, or something to that effect. And my oldest son turns to Tom and I and says, well, you didn't make us, so I guess you have no power over us. Which, I don't know, maybe to some people that would not be the most appropriate thing to say or share with your parents. But in this house, we stand some gay humor and a little bit of gay shade because the gays understand the shade. And my children have it, regardless if they're queer or not. I don't know, but they're going to have it. So hopefully their future partners can deal with that. But I'm so excited. Des, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Des. I'm one of the co-hosts over at, this is always fun to say, so if you think you thought it's cute to hear it, I'm one of the co-hosts over at 50 Minutes. We are a podcast that not only talk Star Wars, but we talk about the political world and the things that are happening, and and truly showing that Star Wars is political. If you look at the story and look at everything about it, there are so many political overtones that you can't escape it. And I'm a parent to two girls, one who is about to hit 18, and the other one, if she makes it, she will be 10 in September. I started a little later on. I wanted to be done by 30 having kids. Well, I didn't start until I was, partway through 30. So it's interesting seeing the dynamic between the two girls. But for the love of Star Wars, I actually really thank my younger daughter for kind of having me dive back into Star Wars and not just kind of tip the toe in. We're talking full on. So it's interesting that, and it started with The Mandalorian, Kerwin, as you mentioned, that it was, I started watching The Mandalorian, and now my oldest, it's funny, my almost 18-year-old loves Marvel, but hates Star Wars. And where my 9-year-old loves Star Wars and hates Marvel. So, how do you go to one and say, okay, well, mama likes this better. So, but anyway, so we really just started digging in and we started going to the movies, and I had never watched the cartoons before. So because of my daughter, I started tearing into the Clone Wars cartoons, and then it went into Rebels and then everything. And then it kind of led me to here, but it's been nice to have the shared experience with my one daughter who lives primarily in the house with me. My other one does not. And so, but to have this shared experience where, I am the Mama DeLorean, and I wear that title very proudly. I even have where is it? Somewhere in the background. I even have the helmet to prove it. It's sitting. Oh, okay, fuck it. Excuse me. It's back there. I broke the cursing barrier. I knew that was going to happen. So anyway, so I'm the Mama DeLorean. She is my Boogs Kenobi, and it has been just amazing to have the shared experience too. We were talking about the Kenobi trailer, and as we're sitting there in our family room, I have my arms wrapped around her, and I just got so excited. I'm just squeezing, and she's like, "Good Lord, come on!" So anyway, so I'm happy to be here, and it's such a great experience to be a parent and have someone to share it. It really is.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And yes, I am here for Clone Wars anytime Clone Wars. So if Clone Wars is what brings anyone into Star Wars, I am here for it because they're going to know my Star Wars. Hello, my friend Maria.
Hey, everybody. It's me, Maria. I'm Ahsoka's mom, and I am one of the hosts of Sisters with Sabers. So Ahsoka is 3 years old, going on 43. Hi, say hi, everybody. Say hi.
Hi.
Oh boy.
Oh, hi.
I can hear them.
I know you can't hear them. That's because I got my headphones on. You want to hear them? What do you want to say?
I want to say Happy Valentine.
But it's not Valentine.
Hi.
Okay.
Ahsoka, I'm always here for Valentine's Day. It makes our hearts happy. Any day. Thank you, baby Ahsoka.
I also am a step parent to an 11-year-old boy named TJ. And he is wonderful. Being a step parent is very challenging and also very rewarding. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go through.
Yes, we will. Hello, everyone. I'm Bryan, as you already know, and if you have not listened to our show before, my husband Tom and I have adopted 3 children through the foster system, and we have an 8, a 9, and a 12-year-old now. They all came to us at different stages of their lives. Our youngest was 4, and our oldest and our first son was 7 when he came, and then our middle child came last at 6. So it's been an interesting journey. Some of it we lived right here on the podcast. And, before we had children, before I thought I ever would or could have kids, I always kind of watched Star Wars through a queer lens, which is what we do a lot of here on Pink Milk. Again, if you listen, you know this. But now, the found family experience, especially that in The Mandalorian, really, really speaks to me as a parent of our very own found family. No one in this house shares any biology, and we're a family all the same. And I think that's something that we're learning with Din Djarin in a really beautiful and thoughtful and realistic way on The Mandalorian with Din and baby Grogu. I've come to love and appreciate that show so very, very, very much, and I'm very appreciative of Star Wars as an early teacher to be a great parent, because we've seen some of the worst parents in Star Wars, so we know what not to be like, but we've also seen some really beautiful and amazing parents in Star Wars, so we can, learn how to be a great parent and a better parent with some of those other characters. So let's hop into our first little question here. All right. And let's start with Emma. Question for you. How has Star Wars shaped you as a parent? And or do you have a favorite character that's really guided you to be the mother that you are now, or the mother that you want to be in the future to our beautiful little baby Silas?
I've talked about this before on the show. So when I went to see The Force Awakens, I was just about to have my son. I was very pregnant and very emotional. So I think it really heightened the emotional experience of watching the movie for me. And I think it also sort of paved the way for me for the sequel trilogy having a place in my life that it doesn't always have for other people in Star Wars fandom that they've talked about. Because it really sort of hit me in my tender feelings. I think, being a Star Wars fan came very easily to me because of my experiences with my own mom. Having a mom who was a feminist and who was such a strong woman, it meant that it really spoke to me on a very personal level. And it also meant that when I was thinking about what I wanted to teach my own child and what perspective I wanted to give him on the world, it was really important to me that I be able to share Star Wars with him, because that was the important work of parenting, I think. So there isn't really specifically a character that I have related to their parenting journey. I talked in my one-on-one with you about how I felt about seeing Leia struggle her relationship with Ben and question her choices for obvious reasons. And so that was really meaningful to me. I think that's really the closest that I've come to feeling like my own parenting was influenced, because it was this is a very strange perspective, and I know a lot of people won't find this very obvious, but I found it very reassuring and comforting to see somebody that had struggled and failed with parenting, but who kept going. And so it was kind of like permission to not be perfect and permission to make mistakes, because the stakes of parenting are so high, and it's very important to all of us. I'm sure that I can speak for all of us when I say that, like, you know, one of the most important things in our life, and to flourish and blossom and to cherish their gifts. But you know, we can't control everything. And sometimes when you're parenting, you're confronted with the fact that unexpected things will happen. You know, sometimes you don't read your child's needs properly and you don't respond in an ideal way, but it's okay. Like, it's okay for that to happen. It's okay for life to end, but we just have to keep going and just keep doing our best. So that's the message that I took from Star Wars.
I love it every single time you share those kinds of stories, both on and off mic. I think you're so honest and brave in the way that you can and do talk about mistakes as a parent. I know I've texted you more than once when I've been frustrated and angry and probably feel like I said something I shouldn't have, or said something that I should have, but in a way that I shouldn't have. And I think when I talk to you, you just normalize it so much and, you know, remind me that parents are humans and, you know, sometimes we make mistakes. So I thank you for that. Jason, how about you? What is a character, or how has Star Wars in general helped shape you into the great papa that you are?
It's funny because, like, before we started talking, we were mentioning Turning Red, and so many of us that have watched it this weekend, that's so much on our minds, and it's such a beautiful movie, speaking to children and parents simultaneously in that wonderful way that Pixar does. And it's like that's so much on my mind, and that is crossing over with it. And Bryan, I think I talked about it when I was on with you in the past. The one thing that sticks out to me is in the mid 90s, there was the week I was graduating from high school, and I saw a marathon of all three of the original films back to back in the theater. And it was really the first time that I had seen them. I feel like it was the first time I really watched them after being a kid. And being at that stage of that age, about 18, and about to move out and go to college, and the message of Luke forgiving Darth Vader, forgiving his father. You know, Darth Vader probably being the worst dad of all time in the history of the galaxy. But even with that moment of, I know there's good in you and I forgive you, that really resonated with me when I was 18, of being, you know, a weird kid about to go off to art, what people imagined me to be in life, and kind of coming into my own and being comfortable with that, and kind of being like, you know, that was such an eye-opening thing for me, and really set me on the Star Wars obsessed kind of level I am now. But and then that's still resonating in all of Star Wars after that, with, you know, the prequel films of forgiveness, and, you know, like you were saying, of, you know, the greatest teacher failure is. When I saw The Last Jedi in the theater, that part with Luke and Yoda just hit me right in the emotional core. And I was sitting in the theater. It was the third time I saw it when it really sunk in for me. And I'm sitting there in the theater just crying to myself, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? You know, like, and then it wasn't until afterwards where I was like, why did this affect me so much? And it's everything you were saying. Like, we all try so hard to be, you know, to be the Luke, and to not be the Darth Vader, and we all make mistakes, and we forgive, and that's part of being a child, and it's also part of being a parent, and it's this circle that Star Wars just illustrates so beautifully. So hopefully that made sense.
Yes, it did, my friend. It did. So, you know, I love that you brought up Darth Vader, because I think there are so many things to that character that so many of us can take away with, or so many things to take from it. Very, very different things. You know, in my specific situation, I love to see Luke and how he's able to redeem his father. I think it's so beautiful because to my boys, all of their bio parents are going to be their bio parents forever and always. That doesn't take anything away from me or from Tom. And because they're their bio parents, they're always going to love them, and they're always going to want to see the best in them. At least I hope they want to see the best in them, you know. And you also brought up Yoda, and the line that Yoda said in The Last Jedi didn't mean the same to me back then because I had only been a parent for a year. I was still underwater. I had no idea what I was doing. I had this little 7-year-old that I was just, you know, overwhelmed by, like I'm sure a lot of parents are at the beginning, and all the challenges that come with that, and the challenges that come with having a child who had 6 years of life before they came to you. But now I can see it, and I see some of the ideas and the seeds that Tom and I have planted in him, and watching him teach those things to our other boys. I appreciate it so much. So thank you for bringing that character up. In that moment, I think it's so amazing and so great. So Becca, how about you? Same question that we've had with these other beautiful folks, and after my little rambling here.
Yeah, as everyone's talking about this question and relating their stories, my heart's beating really fast because this is something I really don't share. Not those that are not close to me don't really know about this. There's a handful of really close Star Wars friends that know the story that my children and I have went through. So, yeah, my kids, you know, they were born between the years of 1997 and 2002. So the prequels couldn't have come out at a better time for me because it was my dark time. I was married to their father, who was at the time, sorry, I'm already like get emotional. He was going through a bad stage in his life. He was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and that really changed him. He was violent in every way you can imagine, and the prequels really sucked me back into Star Wars, where it was my escape, and having Shmi there and realizing how selfless she was and how that was a protective mechanism, and I had to kind of harness that. And Padme is very close to me because that moment on Mustafar, people look at the way George wrote her and just kind of wrote her off, and see, I don't see that. It takes so much strength for someone in a destructive relationship to know when to walk away, to not just settle and stay and take it. And he wasn't even at that point, because I've been through abuse. I've been through it verbally. I've been through it physically. I've seen my kids be physically abused. They've seen me. At early ages, you're talking ages of 4 through the age of 9, they know. So the prequels saved me in a lot of ways. Padme will be my heart forever because she did something that a lot of women just can't do. And that is just that I'm done. I'm walking away. I can't follow this. You know, and granted, yes, she maybe didn't have the outcome that I wanted, but hope survived. And that was exactly what, you know, I had to do. I mean, I had to, you know, take my kids, leave that relationship, start anew. I mean, we were evicted, had no home. I was on every, you name it, anything I can get my hands on, welfare, whatever, because I was a mother of 3 young kids. You know, we lived in a very terrible part of town, but where was I going to go? I was on assistance, and we had no cable. So my kids, guess what? They watched Star Wars. That's all we did. So when the Clone Wars came out, that was huge. I took them to the midnight matinee, and Ahsoka was the lifesaver, was the lifeline for my kids. They grew up with her. Ahsoka is very close to me now too, because I look at her like one of my kids. My kids grew up along with her. Had it not been for that show, my kids probably wouldn't be who they are today. I know that sounds crazy, but I was able to take my son at the age of 8 to Celebration back in 2010, and he got a once-in-a-lifetime chance to spend 10 minutes with Dave Filoni. And my son still remembers that because he goes, Mom, I had to wait 12 years, but I'm getting everything I asked him for. So Star Wars is very close in my home because when they look at Padme and Mustafar, they see me. And that's till this day is very hard to watch, and for them not to, have those moments come back to them, especially the oldest. To see a fear in your child's eyes at the parent that's supposed to protect them, you're not supposed to see that. So, yeah, Star Wars is one of those things that just really resonates deeply because people don't give Padme enough credit. She saw where the light was and she followed it regardless of how hard it was because she was a fighter through and through. And she walked away from the one person that she fought so hard for the way he was living. She fought furiously for against trafficking and against slavery because she met him, because she met Shmi. So to realize that and to see how she had to walk away from that destroyed her heart. It's just, yeah. So Star Wars is definitely deep within my family. Thank goodness for Ahsoka. Thank goodness for Padme, Shmi. And you know what? Even Hera, because once Rebels came out, Hera taught me she gave me the tools, in a sense, to raise my young adolescent kids. Give them the tools to make them make their own decisions. Let them make their mistakes. It's okay. But let them learn from it. Don't do it for them, but give them those tools so they can achieve. And yeah, all those shows are just, if you haven't watched them, you need to watch them and let your kids watch them. They're just all full of lessons, life lessons, and very big and important ones to help them become good young adults.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. No. And you don't need to apologize for anything. I've said this before, but man, I love Rebels. And I've learned to love Rebels so much more in these past few years, specifically because of Kanan and Hera. And I'm so grateful to those characters and the writers who wrote them and the actors who voiced them and played them, because those two characters taught me how to be a parent before I was even a parent, before I was allowed to. When that show came out, I wasn't allowed to be married. Tom and I were together and we had our lives set up, but we weren't allowed to be married. The idea of having kids was just a pipe dream. I knew that I was never going to do surrogacy or any of that. That wasn't my calling. And I always wanted to adopt and just never thought I'd be able to. And those characters gave a found family story something that is so honest, which I know I said that about The Mandalorian, but this show too. We have 3 boys, and like I said during The Mandalorian, when I was mentioning The Mandalorian, no one in our family shares any DNA. None of us do. But we're a family just the same. We look just like everybody else's family. And the way my boys interact, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I'm so thankful to Hera and Kanan for teaching me that my boys all came at different times and came from different backgrounds and have different stories. And even when some of those stories share a lot of similarities, they're still different. But that show really taught me how to let my boys be my boys, and that our family can grow around all of our different selves and all of our different personalities. We aren't all shaped the same, and because we came from different spots, we became stronger. It isn't just the Berry Way became all of us together. It wasn't us putting it on our 3 children. And I'm just really grateful for that opportunity. And also, really thank you for sharing your story. I know that's hard. And I grew up in a house similar to what it sounds like you were in and your kids had to grow up in for at least a while. And I know that must have been really, really hard. I wish my mother had the same strength that you did. I had to watch my father beat my mother, and not only my father beat my mother, but I had to watch my brother beat my mother as well. And I have still moments now that I just feel like my mother didn't love me enough. And I know it would be hard, but she didn't love me enough to get away, and I had to stay there, and I had to wait until I was old enough to get away, and I did get away, and I've never looked back. But I wish my mother had the same strength that you did, the courage that you did to do for your kids. I really, really wish I had that, and I hope to be able to give that to my boys.
If I can, I don't think it was about how much she loved you. It's a battered person's thought process is, this is what I know, but I don't know if I leave. It's that fear of the unknown. That's what's holding them into that predicament. So I understand that, not because being afraid, what do I do then? This is my life source, even though it's abusive. This is my life source. This is how our bills are paid. This is how I can provide. So I understand why people in those situations stay. And I don't think it has anything to do with how much they love those in the household. I think it's that fear of the unknown, especially in third world countries. That's huge. It is that fear of the unknown, of what's on the other side. Yeah. But I'm sorry, and when I do get to meet you in person, I'm going to hug you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No. You don't need to apologize. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, and I like your perspective so much better, and all of that is very true, and I should be more aware of that, but thank you. Kerwin, do you have a Star Wars story?
I do. Not because of the things he did right, but it's just lessons learned for me. The more I study Anakin's story, the more I come to realize that it was not all of his fault. He was disappointed along the way. And it started from a very early age when he was 9 years old. I don't know if he was born into slavery, but when we met him, he was a slave, he and his mom. And his mother made a big sacrifice, her only child. She wanted the best for him. And she felt that her son had a gift. And Qui-Gon knew of this gift. She trusted Qui-Gon to take her son and give him a better life. So that was a big decision for a mother to make, to let her only son go. Now, Anakin was only 9 years old, and he's just 1 year younger than my oldest son. And I can't imagine being in a situation where I could let my son go to anyone, not knowing if I'll ever see him again. What his well-being going to be, who's he going to be with. But that little boy, he may not have known exactly what he was getting himself into, but he was excited to go. And he just gave his mother that last look right before he took off in his Qui-Gon ship. And they didn't know if they were ever going to see each other again. And when Anakin, now became a part of the Jedi and following their codes and order, it's very strict. And it would seem very unfair for what the Jedi had planned for him, that relationships were not a part of the Jedi Order. He needed to forego any relationships in order to study and understand the Jedi Code. I thought that was very unfair, but that's the way it was. When Keith and I would talk about that moment, we would joke, you mean they couldn't even bring Shmi to Coruscant and put her up in a nice hotel and just have her see her son just for a weekend? You know what I mean? The Jedi could afford it, put her up in a nice hotel in Coruscant. But that wasn't meant to be. And I believe that when Anakin became a part of the Jedi, they wanted him to be the Jedi they wanted him to be, rather than allowing Anakin to be his own person. And to me, that's not much different than being a slave. So he really left from being in slavery and being in bondage with the Jedi because he couldn't be who he wanted to be. He couldn't love who he wanted to love. And he needed that father figure, which he didn't get. Qui-Gon may have been that person for him, but unfortunately that was not the case. And I think Palpatine stepped in and wanted to be that father figure and took advantage of Anakin, and then that started his downfall. So my life lesson is, I don't want my children to be me. I want them to be who they want to be. I want them to be happy with the decisions they make. I am there just to guide them and to advise them. And they're going to make mistakes, and if they need to talk about it or cry about it, they can come to me, and they can know from me that mistakes are important and it's a part of your growth. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Take risks. And the worst that can happen is you get no, or you get a door closed, but you just keep going. So that's what I get out of the Anakin story. And then as he became an adult, then he became a father, he didn't know what fatherhood was because he didn't have that father figure. And he wanted that relationship with his son, but he just had no idea how to go about finding that relationship. Luke really had to reach out to him and help him and understand who his father was and understand that, yes, he made mistakes, but I still love you, and I still believe in you that you would do the right thing. I think maybe had Anakin might have had a earlier relationship with Luke, maybe things may have been different, you know, but I don't know. But that's the lesson I take out of it. I love my boys. I want them to be happy. I want them to, it's not about pleasing me. It's not about pleasing their mother. It's just having them have a happy life and having to be proud of their accomplishments.
Thank you so much. I mean, all of you, just thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. This is just already so amazing. Des, how about you? Do you have a Star Wars story that you can share with us?
First of all, I just have to say I am overwhelmed by the group of you. I truly have to say I'm just hearing what the few of you already have had to say. And Qi'ra, just I'm not gonna get through this. I was pretty much composed until you started talking and something you said about Anakin. And so if I had to say anything with Star Wars with me is I have to kind of balance my role of parenting like the Force. There is a light side and then there's a dark side. And I had totally forgot about Anakin until Qi'ra, you mentioned it. And my background is kind of a lot like Anakin in a way. I grew up in the church. I'm the child of two pastors, so I didn't have the opportunity to run from one to have a safe place from the other. No, you got it from both. And so growing up in the church, it was a very black and white type of world. And through the church, my talents were noted. And because of my talents, I got to travel the world. And so, but Anakin is more of my dark side. I have two kids. I have almost an 18-year-old who I have not visibly seen or audibly spoken to in almost, oh shit, I missed a day. Thursday was 6 years that we have had a chance to be with each other. And it is really hard. And my oldest is a product of divorce. And I met my wife through the church. We had goals and aspirations of being a pastor, just like my parents were. But as things went through, the marriage just got really, really bad to the point where, later on, we didn't think we could have kids, and we did. And so it was still always very contentious. And just my oldest was just a miracle in itself. And so that was just a life-changing moment, just being a parent, first of all. I mean, just, even imagine just when Vader found, now he's turned into Vader now. Okay. So I've even, Anakin went through a transformation, as if I as well, after my divorce. And so you've already baggage, you're saddled with the baggage of divorce as well. If you've, I can't think of how many talk about Shmi in a way. You're having to just, hope for the best with your kids. And so, going through a divorce, having just give so much to make sure that your kid had one world. I bent over backwards. How Shmi just endured slavery just to make sure that she was okay with her kid. But it got to the point where, I had to end the marriage, and it was just very brutal. And, there was always, as much as there's tried to be that common bond, there was always that. And so my child was that, my oldest was just this byproduct of this underlying, just something was there. And part through the end, as I talked about a transformation, I finally realized a point where I was able to come out to my wife and to say, this is me, I'm realizing this is who I always was. It puts all the pieces together. I'm trans. And just first of all, just having to deal with it on so many levels of just, I just can't imagine if just Anakin, the whole Vader thing, knew that Mom and maybe even Padme, what if he had all that knowledge as all this was happening? I've had this knowledge while it was happening in this transformation where, first of all, having to wonder if I was going to survive my marriage. I'm one of the few that have. And so, and it was always hard. I'm one of the people I could never tell. Anakin had to hide his relationship with Padme. I had to hide the fact of who I was because I didn't know how to tell my oldest, because my ex would just, it would just be on another level. Just having to deal with the fact of one being a parent, one being trans, how to deal with trans while being married, how to figure out a trans while being a parent, and fourth, how to be trans while still being very, very, very much involved in the church. And so there's just 4 parallel running things. And think about Anakin had the pressure of, just with Padme going on and with, dealing with Mom before she died and having to have to face the Jedi Order, which is a religion in itself. You're right, Nick. It should be treated as if as a religion because it's truly, that's what it's founded in, and how the Jedi make things very black and white. And so I had to face up against that world, and I knew what I was going to deal with when I had to face my co-parent, because that's the world that all we knew. All we knew was the way that the church looked at things. I was brought up taught that people like me or Bryan, people like you, didn't deserve to have kids, and having to deal with that transformation of seeing, I feel like I'm Anakin forwards and reverse in a way, because I look at it now after coming out where my oldest had to find out because I was outed. My oldest was used as a shield, and I was outed. And that moment of trauma and having to figure out, you can see why Anakin sometimes went ape shit. Think about even my own daughter. And so, but, throughout all of this, it's like I look at Vader to the point where later on where I'm looking for forgiveness. I could have did things better, but because the way things were so contentious at the fact of how I was outed, and I just can't even just imagine what's going through the mind of my oldest. But, I just think about, Qi'ra, when you said, it's not Anakin's fault. Like part of it is I feel that's, like in my own life, that's how it is. This is not totally my fault. Especially being trans is not my fault. And I had a conversation recently with my co-parent, and something really, really, really bad was going on. And I just can't go into details. But blah, blah, blah point was, I wish you could have gone slower. And man, slap in the face right there, realization hit where this is sometimes the narrative we face. The Jedi sometimes faced a bad rap. Look at the part with Ahsoka in season 7 where the Martez sisters, they looked at the Jedi from the bad perspective. And so, having to deal with this whole black, white, everything different sides. I mean, eventually I left the church. And so where with my oldest, I've had the church to talk about. And I've totally walked away from that, where I have now a 9-year-old who for the first few years, but now being brought up void of all of that, and talk about just this, not having to just wade through a whole layer of just sift through things just to get to the reality of life. But Star Wars has been that connection. But I go back to think of the light side of my parenting. I just think about how just that unconditional love that Leia had. She knew what Ben was doing. She knew the torment Ben had. Okay, I think about the torment my oldest going through, but you know what? I have never lost fact of the fact I love my oldest more than anything. My love for her is what has kept me going. Look how sad Anakin was when he realized, he thought, where's Padme? Didn't even know that the kids or anything like that. And so, but go back to my youngest, it's like, you just have to hope for the best with your kids. And with my two, when I came out to my parents, I got let me put my pastor hat on. That's what I got, and it just seeing how, where was that unconditional love? That's what Leia had. Leia had that unconditional love, knowing she knew what was going on. She knew what Ben was doing. She knew, but yet she didn't stop loving. And I even think about my oldest, I made a comment to my dad years ago. And this is how, sometime as a parent, I'm trying to think about, you learn sometimes what not to do from the previous generation, and how you try to stop the trauma from year to year. And, I was just diagnosed with PTSD, and, trying to wrap my head around that, and how, sometimes I'm glad that, Luke and Leia were separated from Anakin at a time, because Anakin was going through some shit. In fact, of what would their lives be like just to be under that pressure of just that trauma that what Anakin was going through. And so you just sometimes to say, you just want your kids happy no matter what they're doing. Ben, don't go, killing too many people out there, but I still love you, and I still want the best for you. And so it's that light and dark that I look at Star Wars and go, how can I just take some of these lessons? And you know what? I learn more from you people, because I love how just one of the things I've enjoyed about being a part of this community is the perspective that all of you have. And I have never seen things through Star Wars the way I have since I've talked to the group of you, and through the years, like Bryan in our conversations, and Em listening to you, and even Maria, and talking about things. And so it is just amazing how community, and how you can finally have your connections with different people, and talk about all the different characters that mean to them and why. And it's neat how you can use that as an example to start putting pieces together. So it is just, I am grateful for Star Wars, and more than anything, I am truly grateful for this community.
Thank you, Des. Honestly, the community, this community, all of you here, I just, like, all of it, I'm so appreciative. I'm so appreciative that something as great as Star Wars can also bring this. I've said it many times, I'm not into the pew pew pews. Sure, that's fun every once in a blue moon to talk about, because pew pew pews are fun. But these conversations, this is where it's really at. This is what makes Star Wars Star Wars. I probably say it all the time, so if you're a regular listener, here you go. You're going to hear it again. But this is where it's at. So thank you to all of you for getting beyond the pew pew pews with me today and every day. And thank you for sharing all these stories. It's a lot. You hit the nail on the head, Des. It's all about perspective, and it's all about community. And we're in a world right now that I love what social media could bring. It could bring so many people together like this. It does bring a lot of people together, but it also pushes so many people away. It pushes so many people away from one another. It drives certain kinds of people together, and that normally wouldn't get together, and their small voice feels like many, which can be both good and bad. I mean, just being a queer person on the internet, right now, all of this don't say gay stuff, it's all out there. And you post one thing on Twitter, and my God, I have to deal with so many homophobes coming up into my house and their comments. I'm sure all of you do. This is nothing new. This isn't specific to me, but it's important to have these conversations, and I'm so glad that Star Wars is something that allows these conversations to live in, and I'm thankful that everyone's been able to share their perspectives through Star Wars. I think it's a really, really powerful tool, and I'm just really proud of what we're doing here, and I hope people are proud to be listening and thankful to all of you for talking about what you are. You know, if this is going to be really, really selfish, if this podcast ever does one thing for any one person, I really hope that maybe this show and Tom and I sharing our stories and Emma sharing her story as a parent and all of you here now will maybe inspire a queer person to become a parent someday, and adopt a child, because there's a lot of kids out there who need a loving home, and I really, really believe that queer parents make and can make excellent parents. No tea, no shade to anyone else. Please take this with the spirit in which it's intended. We as queer people have been through so much garbage and continue to deal with garbage day in, day out. If there's any one group of person that understands community, understands sharing differences, understands the need for endless support, it's us. We are nothing without our community. So many of us, I mean, there's so much found family in the queer community because so much of us lose everyone around us. Even if it's not our immediate family, we come out and we lose all of our closest friends, and we're sometimes later in life and left with nothing and no one. And we have to go out and search for our community. We look like everyone, and we look like, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to be out there and be queer and find our community, because it's not always safe. And I think all of those trials and all those tribulations can make us really, really great parents. I mean, I look at Leia and I think of her background and everything that she went through, the stories that she knew of other people, of Padme, and using that community and that pain from other people to move others forward. And I really believe the queer community is really, really great at following that idea and pushing it forward. And for me, that is a really, really wonderful spirit to inject in our kids and inject into the future, because it's what's going to make the world a rainbow. I don't know. Yeah, but thank you so much. Nick, how about you?
Wow. First of all, I do want to say a couple things before I get to my Star Wars nonsense. I'm so honored to be in the presence of these people and to hear these stories. Like, I'm not worthy to sit with this group of people and tell my story, because I'm so moved. It's so powerful to hear what you have all been through, to hear how you're coming out the other side of that. You're continuing to deal with that, which is a story and a testimony in and of itself. Two things that I thought of right off the bat. This group of people, these stories that you're telling, and the reason Star Wars resonates is because of that word story. We love Star Wars because it is a story, and that's where the power in Star Wars has always been, in telling a story. It's, it has characters, it has settings, it has cool shit like lightsabers, but it's the story at the core of it that drives it. And that's what this group of people is. These are stories. These are real stories of real people dealing with trauma, dealing with redemption, and seeking out. The other thing that I highlighted and wrote down on my paper as I take notes, because I do that, is hope. Star Wars has always been hope. And that's what I'm also hearing with this group of people, and hearing you all tell your stories. Is there are stories of hope. There are stories of dealing with trauma, coming through the other side, And even when you're still dealing with it, you're still pursuing that hope and you're not giving up on it. You know, we see so many different times in Star Wars when there's darkness and then we look for the light on the other side and we continue to push forward. And whether that means marital trauma, whether that means being traumatized by the church, which I could spend way too much time talking about, like, you're coming through those things, and that hope is inspiring for parents, for, you know, individuals, for people with stories, whether you're queer, whether you're straight, whatever your situation and where you came from. That is a powerful story that you are telling with your life, and you are inspiring and showing hope to people like me, like the people that are going to listen to this podcast and be able to hear and take something from that. I'm just watching all of our faces as we're listening to everybody tell their stories. I'm seeing people perk up and I'm seeing people nod and I'm seeing us respond to the moments where it hit us. And it makes me think, even when you sent us the questions ahead of time, Bryan, you know, this is what we're going to try and talk about. And we start out talking about our Star Wars parents and who, you know, guides us and whatever. And my answer has changed 3 times just listening to the stuff y'all have said, because I'm reminded of other parts of my story and being able to grow and be affected by your stories. And that's truly, truly powerful. And I can't be more grateful for that. That being said, for me as a parent of 4 daughters, and how Star Wars and where that fits, it started out in a couple of different ways. It's an evolving thing, which parenting absolutely is. Who my Star Wars parent role model was when I first became a parent is not who it is now. It started out, it was Han Solo. And this is going to sound really dumb, but Han Solo's the wing it guy. And when I became a parent, you know, we planned to have kids. It was a part of the deal. We were some of the first of our friends to have kids. My twin girls, who are going to be 14 in May, were born super premature. They weighed 113 and 25 when they were born. They were born at 27 weeks. They spent time in the NICU. Like, we had no idea what the hell was going on. We had never been parents before. None of our friends were parents. We had our parents, but it was different. And so we just went with, we're going to figure it out. We're going to be okay. And so one of my favorite Han Solo lines is simple tricks and nonsense. And that's where I started out as a parent. Like, we're going to figure it out. Part of that kind of parenting is intuitive. You give them what they need. If they cry, feed it. If they need to sleep, you take a nap. Like, you do those things. You try to figure it out along the way. And so then when my other friends started having kids and they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? I can't tell you what to do, because what works for me isn't going to work for you. That's not how parenting is. Like, there's no one size fits all. It's gut, it's instinct. You do the basics, you do the things you need to do, and you keep rolling and you keep going. So that's where it started out. But where it became now, after we had 2 more, and, you know, I've got 2 teenagers, I've got an almost 10-year-old and an almost 6-year-old, it's Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus is my Star Wars dad, and is the dad that I feel like I am, because he's always going to show up and deliver for the kids, even when they screw up. And we see it so many times in Rebels where he sighs and he's like, I can't believe you did that. But the next thing he does is he snaps that lightsaber together and he steps out in front of them to protect them, to show them what needs to be done, to get the job done. And I know, Bryan, you and I have talked about this. I talked about it last week for a Rebels Remembered show. There is not a better example of healthy parenting in Star Wars than Kanan and Hera, and the relationship that they have. Even the 2 of them together, when, you know, they roll their eyes at each other and she goes, you think that was a good idea? Yeah, just like all the other times it didn't work. Like, but they still show up for each other. So they still do what they're supposed to do. So for me, at this stage in my life, it's Kanan. It's Kanan going, you know, my kids are going to mess up. I love that we talked about how we should expect our kids to mess up. We should tell them it's okay for them to mess up and love them through it anyhow. My kids do dumb stuff every day, and I grumble about it because I'm a grouchy old man, but I also go, all right, you spilled that thing and I can't believe you did that, but let's go clean it up, says the guy who dumped coffee on his keyboard 20 minutes ago. But he shows up from the very beginning to the very end. And to that Jedi Knight episode, when he stands between the fire and his people, like, he always showed up. And that's what I want to continue to do for my family, is I want to show up. And I can't believe that I get to beat Becca to this, but the other big overarching part of this for me as a parent, and when it comes to Star Wars, is we are what they grow beyond. That line in The Last Jedi wrecks me every single time, because I want my kids to be better than me. I want my kids to grow beyond me. I want my kids to, and I want to be able to do what I can to help get them there, but I'm not going to be able to do all of it, but I'm going to try my damnedest to get there.
We want them better so that they can put us up when we get old. So
Absolutely. That's right. Remember me somewhere along the line.
Please remember, all of our children, remember what we are doing for you now, so you can do it for us again later. All right, Maria. First, thank you. This was Maria's idea, and thank you for bringing it to me. Thank you for trusting me with such a great idea. I hope this is how you wanted it to turn out. But what's your Star Wars story, my dear friend?
Hey, how are you? I just want to say that I knew that this discussion would be hot fire. I just knew that it would be. I didn't know who would be in the room, but I knew that this was a conversation that so many Star Wars fans need to hear and that needed to happen, right? And it all kind of started out of, my stepson and what he's going through right now and trying to understand what his sexual identity and gender identity is going to be. And I told him, like, hey, we don't need to decide that right now. Like, you're 11. It's okay. Like, we'll get there. It's a journey, right? And I knew that this kind of conversation needed to take place. And this is what I meant 2 years ago when I said the future of Star Wars podcasting is not sitting here talking about this action figure. That's done. It's been done. It's a wrap, sweetie. It's a wrap. If that's all you've got to talk about is what you saw at Galaxy's Edge, the lightsaber that you got from Hasbro, the action figure on your desk, it's over. It's a wrap. That stuff is done. That was 10 years ago, sweetheart. This is the future of Star Wars right here. It's taking what we learned from it and applying it in the real world, right? This is it. This is now. Like, this is what's happening. And I'm so grateful to everyone who shared their story. Becca, I never spent time with you before, but I just want to say I love you and I connect with you so much. And I hope that I'll see some of you at Celebration. I can't wait to hug you and kiss you and just let you know how much you mean to me, because I've been listening to Star Wars podcasts for years, right? And I've never felt the connection, right? We're locked into each other. I can call Kerwin and ask for a favor. I can call Bryan and I can ask him, can we put together like a Pink Milk Junior for the kids? I can ask those things, you know what I mean? And create a safe space for not only me, but my children, right? Because we're here, right? And because we're here, we can protect them, right? And we can give them a space, right? Because that's what it's about. It's about passing it on generationally, right? That's the story of Star Wars, is we're passing something along to the next generation. You know what I mean? Can we build a Sisters Junior? Can we build me and Bryan have had these internal conversations where off mic, we've talked about building a diversity coalition of Star Wars podcasts where we're all linked into this thing because it's bigger than us, right? And setting up a brand so that everybody knows who we are. Right? And they know this is the network of Star Wars to be a part of, because you're going to be accepted no matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like. It's not about that, and so that's something that I've been talking to Bryan about for a long time, is how can we grow, you know what I mean? And continue to be that flagship for the community, because we're out there. Whether they want to know who we are or not, we're here, baby. And this is the future. This is it. And this is the Star Wars fandom that I've been waiting for, that revolution, because for so long, no shade, like Bryan had said before, no shade, but listen, I love you too, baby. Love you. And this is what I've been waiting for, is like people that look like me on the podcast talking about what's going on. You need a hug and kiss right now? You do? Okay, let's do it. I love you so much. Yeah, you're my girl. And, I think that's important, that people see that Star Wars fandom is across gender lines. It's across color lines. Look, it grows and it goes wherever it feels like going. And I knew that this conversation would be hot fire, and I knew that we just had to do it. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew that the Barbara Walters of Star Wars podcasting would have my back and generate some dope questions. Because I'm the idea person. You know what I mean? I don't always execute really well. I'm sure if you've heard Sisters, you know that. but I can come up with these ideas, right? And I have this big imagination that I can see where we should go. I have that vision, right? And I'm like, how do we take this and actually make this a reality? So I'm really happy to have met all of you, and thank you so much for sharing your stories. For me, very briefly, I'm going to talk about myself. My mother was not the best mother. She wasn't ready to be a mother. She wasn't prepared to be a mother. She had children because it was the thing that she was told to do by the church. Women have children. That's what you do, right? She had a limited education. She was very much a shmee, but she didn't have that kindness internally, right? She was very distant from us, and it wasn't her fault. That's all she knew, right? She was a young girl from Maysville, Kentucky, who dropped out of high school in 8th grade, had a limited reading capability. She was a housekeeper. I'm the housekeeper's daughter. You know what I mean? That's who I am, so I can't be mad at her anymore. I've learned to let go of that anger because it's a bruise that festers inside of me now. If I continue to hold on to the anger, the resentment, why weren't you there for me? Why didn't you love me? Why didn't you support me? Because she couldn't support herself. She couldn't take care of her own self. How's she going to take care of me? She didn't have what she needed to have. She wasn't prepared. And then she went through a divorce, right? And that was tough for both parties. Whoever dealt it, smelt it, not important at this point, right? We're grown up, so we're here now, and I've kind of learned to let go of that woe is me mentality. My parents divorced. I have this tragic backstory, but it's about what am I going to do today with what I have that's in front of me, right? That stuff's behind me. There's only so much I can do about it. And I'm in Ahsoka, right? The people that I loved and trusted in my life weren't there for me. Right? So here I am, I'm making a new way, right? I'm making a brand new path for my children. I know you want a hug and kiss. Come over here and we'll get another hug and kiss. Okay. You need a hug? Okay. Well, we'll get you one big hug. How about that? We're never too busy for a hug. I love you. And, so growing up in that environment. Huh?
His arm is this.
Oh, it's your arm, and it's a beautiful arm.
And his arm is this.
It's my arm. Hey, it is.
And his long
Listen,
arm.
I want to talk to friends. Can you give me a second?
No.
No.
And his long arm is Daddy's.
It's downstairs if you want to go look at it. So with all of the things that I know, I have to build this new path, right? It's up to me. So with everything that I know, I didn't think I would be able to be a parent, right? Because I was someone who had substance abuse issues, right? And I figured for the longest time that was the price, right, of what I had done, is that I wouldn't be able to be a parent, right? And so I kind of let that dream die. And eventually we went into in vitro, right? And I was able to get pregnant. And the first baby died. Anakin died. And it was, I know you will, baby, because you're my daughter. I know you're going to do it by yourself. I already know that. So Anakin died, but that was hard to get through. And during that process, I learned a lot about loving people through what's going on, and I gave up and I came back to it, right? And we finally did get pregnant, right? And I told Ashley Eckstein, if we have a baby, it's going to be Ahsoka. We're going to name it Ahsoka. And she's like, okay, well, come back when you're pregnant. And on all those hormones and stuff, it's really hard for those of you who haven't experienced that. And every step of the way, I'm thinking am I going to Padme out? am I going to lose this baby? Because not only am I...
Hey, Mommy?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear this one.
That's because it's not on.
Okay.
Where's the Dory?
No, I want to hear this one.
Okay. So through the whole journey, I'm sitting there scared, not knowing what's going to happen.
No, I want to hear
And more importantly, I'm a Black woman, you know, and I've I've heard all the horror stories, you know, of what happens and how you can have your baby taken from you or not get the best quality treatment because of who you are and what you look like. Yeah, I know you can. And it was scary, but I did it, you know, and I'm getting ready to go in and have my C-section now. I'm pregnant with my daughter. And I looked at my husband and I said, if I padme out, you take this baby and you get out of here.
Look what I got, Mom.
Because I know that that's a reality.
Mom,
that could happen.
Look what I got.
I see it. Wow. And she went immediately into the NICU. She was like almost 11 pounds, huge baby. And we just couldn't get her fed, couldn't get enough food to her. And she spent maybe 2-3 days in the NICU and finally came home with us. But I was riddled with fear the entire time, you know, and it's exhausting. You shouldn't be worried about all of that. But I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and no one's really talking to me. They talk around you. You know, we're going to sedate the patient. We're going to do this. We're going to give you an epidural. I'm like, hey, I don't know who y'all are talking to, but I'm going to vomit. Oh, you can't vomit. You haven't eaten. I'm like, ma'am, do you have something to catch this with? You know, and I just vomited all over her face.
Talk to the friend.
Because I was in constant fear.
Mommy, stop talking.
Okay.
And I'm gonna talk to your friends.
Okay, what do you want to say to the friends?
Happy Valentine's Day.
She's always got a lot to say. So it was a really scary thing to give birth, and to give birth without the presence of a mother, right? That's very difficult. And during that time, you really need that connection to someone who's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, who can tell you you're going to be okay. And
Talking, I have to talk to your friends.
well, I asked you what you wanted to say and you said it. I'm telling them about when you were born. And so it was difficult to get through without a mother figure, without someone to guide the way. But I'm learning every day as I go. And I'm a Leia, you know, I'm the leader on the job. I'm the leader at home.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey. You know, I've got so much that I have to do. Like, I'm always busy. And it's not always even my choice. Like, there are some times when you have to stand up for what you believe in, right? And I want my children to know that that's important too, right? So yeah, I've got a lot of commitments, but at the same time, they're not commitments for the sake of commitments. They're not just silly book clubs. Like what we're doing matters, right? It's intentional, and it's something that we can be proud of in the future and say, yes, I was on the right side of history. So, you know, I have a lot to do. I have a lot of responsibilities. I'm the leader at work. I have a whole lot to do here. I've got sisters, you know, I've got charities and fundraisers that we're trying to do constantly at Sisters, you know, and then I've got my own professional development. I want to grow professionally as well, you know, so it's a lot to do. And I relate to Leia so much. Like she's got so much going on all the time. You know, when does she have fun? You know? Like, because she's always in the thick of it. There's always a meeting. There's always somebody to talk to. There's always another battle to fight, another cause that we have to rally against. You know what I mean? There's so much that has to be done. So God bless Leia. God bless her. She was robbed of so much, like having fun. Like getting that moment to relax is so valuable to me now. Like just having that moment when I can sit down and I don't have to constantly be the star of the show or the leader. You know, it's just so important to me now to have that moment where I can. Well, last night I was out of battery. I was just done. I'm like, okay, everybody, I'm sorry. If I let you down, I have to recharge. I was completely out. I had nothing more to give, right? And I have to be able to recharge so that I can give to the show, to work, to my kids, to my family, to my friends, but if I don't recharge and take care of me, how do I do that? So there are times when I have to turn it off and say, okay, everybody, all right, I'm going to need 24 hours, and whatever it is, I'll get back to it then. But I think about where did that come from? You know what I mean? Because that's a way for me to teach my daughter a life lesson without having to pick up any book. I can just show her the TV show and she'll get it from there. You know what I mean? So I try to emulate that as much as I can. When I was changing my name because I got rid of my mom, like all of the things that were associated with her so that I could move forward in my life. That was my way of letting go. I picked a middle name. I said, you know what? I'm going to pick Ashla because that's the light side of the force. That's George's name. And it's a goal to strive for. It's not to say that I'm perfect, but it's to say that that's a goal that I'm striving for, to be the light side of the force for as many people as I can be. Yes, ma'am. I see you. Oh, I see you all the time, ma'am. There ain't no way around you. Nope, sure ain't. Everybody see you.
Thank you so much. This conversation has been so fantastic so far. I can't wait for the second half, but you're going to have to wait next week if you are listening right now, because we're going to split this up into two. So for now, where can people find all of you amazing people there on the Twitter land? If you have a show, talk about your show, do all those things. Emma, my dear, let's talk to you first.
You can find me on Twitter at Hatsleia, HUTTSLEIA. Ship who you want. All ships are valid, especially Din Cobb.
Yes! Nick, how about you?
You can find me on all social media spots at WillsPod, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And from there, you can find the podcast stream. You can find the other things that I'm doing and the projects that I'm working on.
My beautiful Des.
You can find the Star Wars version of me on Twitter at Looks Jedi to Me. I just realized this account turned 15 years. So my main Twitter account is at Whistler. I love how many times they think I'm a ski resort in Vancouver, and I'm not. My podcast, you can find us at 50 Minutes. And my co-host Andres, who is just, I don't think I could be ever envious of a person's knowledge more as my co-host Andres. So he is the main voice behind the website, and he does a phenomenal job. I also do some writing on occasion. You can find me at danastinson.com. And essentially, talk about life and evolution and just whatever's been going on in my life. So I've been trying to start writing a little bit more as I've been getting back into the musical performing world. So I've been trying to writing about that. So that's it.
Becca.
Well, for me personally, on all social media, you can find me at URAngelB. Yeah, it's not your little, how people try to pronounce it, it's URAngelB. If you're interested in any of the shows I do, it's at Tarkin's Top Shelf all across social media, and Castle Kanata on Twitter. Then it's Kanata's Castle all across the board on social media. And thanks for having me. This has been wonderful just to hear everyone else's stories, to know that I'm not alone is a beautiful thing. So thank you all for being brave and sharing. And I think we need more of that. I think the sharing part is huge. We learn. And this is how we can teach everybody going forward to actually not attack because someone is different. You learn a lot through people sharing life stories. So this is huge. Thank you all for having me on.
100%. 100%. Kerwin.
We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Father Son Galaxy. We do have a YouTube channel where we're always talking about Star Wars. We try to put out a new recording every week. We also have a segment that we do with my youngest son, Maceo, called Story Time with Maceo, where we'll read a Star Wars story, a little golden book. So if you have any little kids, you can always gather them around and listen to Story Time. But Bryan, thank you so much. Maria, thank you for putting this together. I am so looking forward to part 2. So thank you again.
Me too. Jason, my friend. Jason, where are you at?
Gabe and I are at blastpointspodcast.com. That's probably the easiest place to go. And if you search Blast Points on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and all that stuff, we're all over there too. And I just got to say again, thank you to Bryan. Thank you to everyone for this. This has just been so inspiring and so beautiful. I'm honored to be here. So thank you all.
Agreed. Thank you to each and every one of you. My dear Maria, where are you at, my friend?
Hey, everybody. You can find Sisters at Sabers on Instagram at Sisters with Sabers and at Sabers with on Twitter. You can find Ahsoka at A Kid Named Ahsoka on Instagram if you're really just that bored that you want to see finger painting or who knows what. You can check that out there. More importantly than that, there's never been a better time to give to Equality Texas. If you have the means to do so, that is the fundraiser and the nonprofit that we are supporting right now as Sisters with Sabers always does and always will be a vehicle for charities, nonprofits, and humanitarian aid. So I want to go ahead and put that out there. And, you can always follow me at Blurred Girl Jedi on Twitter and Instagram if you're bored.
Or love Eminem.
Oh, yeah. You'll see some of that.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Again, I really, really, really appreciate each and every one of you for sharing with us here. And you can follow me and the show on TikTok, Twitter, and kind of Instagram at Serving Pink Milk. Trying the best to do the TikTokery over there. And don't forget to follow the show live every Friday night at 9:30 Eastern for After Dark with myself, beautiful M, who you've gotten to know here, and our friends Mark and Chase. Again, everyone, thank you so much for this. And thank you for listening, if you are listening. And I guess we will see you next week. Drink up. And we're back. Thank you so much, everyone. That was a really, really great conversation, and this was only part 1. So, y'all don't know what you're getting with part 2. I appreciate everyone's openness and their honesty. I know that is not easy. So, thank you. If you're listening, please follow each and every one of these podcasts. If you don't already, shoot them a message. If they helped open up something in you, if they made you think about something either as a parent or as a child, please let them know and send them some good vibes, because talking like this to a bunch of strangers and to a lot of listeners that we don't know who's listening, it really is really difficult to do these things. So I appreciate you and I applaud all of you for speaking so beautifully and sharing that with me and sharing that with all of you. We've got another one coming up next week just like this. We get into sexuality and some gender conversations about what that might be like as parents, a little more social media and what that is or is going to be like for us as parents. It's a really great conversation. It's not as Star Wars focused as this one, but it's really, really beautiful nonetheless. Like I said at the top of the show, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoy all the things that we do, please leave us a review on Apple iTunes and Spotify, or really wherever you can leave us reviews, but most of our listenership comes from those 2 spots. So I appreciate it. If you are new here because you came as a fan of one of the other shows, check us out. I hope you enjoy what we do. I appreciate you. Let us know what you think. Come join us on a Friday night in the Steam Room. That's our live stream every Friday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. It can get thirsty in there, though, so it's not for kids. But again, everyone on this show, thank you so much. All of their links will be in the show notes below, and you'll hear more from them next week. So until then, what do you say? Should we drink up? I think so. Let's drink up.